Welcome dear students. In this video we will discuss the origin, insertion and actions of the muscles of the pectoral region. Now we want to be oriented by muscles present in this view. First of all, this is pectoralis major muscle. The lateral border of pectoralis major is related to this muscle, which is called deltoid muscle, anterior fibers and middle fibers of deltoid, and posteriorly there will be posterior fibers of deltoid. And this is the front of the arm, including coracobrachialis and short head of biceps, and laterally there is long head of biceps, and this is apart from serratus anterior muscle. In order to concentrate on pectoral region muscles, we have to hide all other muscles like this: deltoid and coracobrachialis with short head of biceps and long head of biceps. Okay, now we will discuss every muscle in the pectoral region regarding attachments and action. This is called pectoralis major. As you see, it has clavicular head and sternocostal head, and going to be inserted into the humerus. In details, the origin of pectoralis major is clavicular head from the front of the medial half of the clavicle, and sternocostal head is front of the sternum and manubrium sterni and the upper 6 costal cartilages, and the muscle will converge to be inserted into the lateral lip of the bicipital group of the humerus, putting in mind that the muscle will be twisted here before insertion in order to make the clavicular fibers anteriorly and the sternocostal fibers posteriorly, and this is called the bilaminar tendon or the spiral tendon of the pectoralis major, forming the anterior axillary fold. The action of this muscle, so easy, is to approximate the insertion to the origin. So this muscle is inserted to the humerus, so the action will be movement of the humerus on the shoulder joint, movement of the humerus at the shoulder joint, and the main actions are flexion of the shoulder joint and medial rotation of the shoulder joint. This means that flexion and medial rotation of the humerus at the shoulder joint. In order to see the flexion of the humerus on the shoulder joint, it will be like this animation. If you see, the insertion is approximated to the origin, and this is the lateral view. This is the flexion of the shoulder joint, as you see. So pectoralis major moves the humerus on the shoulder joint, making it anterior like this, and this is called flexion of the shoulder joint. The other action is medial rotation of the humerus at the shoulder joint. It will be like this. If we see, this is the humerus making medial rotation on the shoulder joint, and by this rotation the insertion approximated to the origin of pectoralis major. So if you wanted to put a rule for the actions of the shoulder or on the shoulder joint, you will see that pectoralis major is anterior to the shoulder joint, so it will flex the shoulder joint, and being inserted into the front of the humerus, so it will form medial rotation of the humerus on the shoulder joint. So let's come back to the other muscles other than pectoralis major. I will hide pectoralis major to see the muscle deep to it, which is pectoralis minor muscle. It's called pectoralis minor. If you want to talk about its details of origin and insertion, it takes origin from 3, 4 and 5 ribs. 3, 4 and 5 ribs, just lateral to their costal cartilages, and the insertion is here in the coracoid process of the scapula. So this is the origin. Okay, 3, 4 and 5 ribs, and the insertion is in coracoid process. If you want to put a rule for its action, it's very easy. It's present anteriorly and coming from downwards to upward. So it will move the shoulder girdle, not the shoulder joint. It will move the scapula, making the scapula drawn downwards, and this downwards is called depression of the scapula, and it's very clear in this animation. If you see, I will approximate the insertion to the origin, so the scapula will move downwards, depression of the scapula. And also there is protraction of the scapula, but we will see this in this another animation. If you see, this is forward movement of the scapula. Forward movement of the scapula, which is called protraction of the scapula. So, main actions of pectoralis minor, as we see, if you want to put a rule, it's coming from front to back, so it will draw the scapula forward, protraction, and at the same time it's coming from below upwards, so it will draw the scapula downwards. So the main actions of pectoralis minor are depression and the protraction of the scapula. The third muscle is called subclavius. If you want to see the origin and insertion of subclavius, I have origin from first costochondral junction, and the insertion is in the subclavian groove in the middle third of the clavicle, exactly on the inferior surface of the clavicle, subclavian groove. The action of this small muscle is to steady the clavicle during the actions of the shoulder girdle. Lastly, I will talk about serratus anterior, so allow me to hide these two muscles. Serratus anterior, as you see, is taking origin, as you see, from the lateral aspect of upper 8 ribs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And going to be inserted into the front of the scapula, exactly in the front of the medial border of the scapula. So you have to see how the muscle originated from the lateral aspect of upper 8 or 9 ribs, and same time it goes around the ribs like this to enter between ribs and the scapula to be inserted into the front of the medial border of the scapula. And here we can see the details of origin and insertion. Upper 8 or 9 ribs as origin, and the insertion is posteriorly in the medial border of the scapula from its anterior aspect. So, if you wanted to talk about the actions, try to apply the rule. This muscle is coming from anterior to posterior, so it's attaching the scapula to the front of the axial skeleton, so the main action will be protraction of the scapula, and this is present in this video. Protraction of the scapula with help of pectoralis minor. So what are the protractors of the scapula? Mainly the serratus anterior, and with help of pectoralis minor muscle. If you look to the insertion of this muscle, you will find that first digitation will be inserted into the upper angle of the scapula. Second and third digitation will be inserted into the length of the medial border of the scapula. The last 5 digitations will be inserted into the front of the lower angle. So if I contracted if I want to talk about the action of lower 5 digitations of serratus anterior, it will be scapular upward rotation, and this is present in this video. If you see, the lower 5 digits of serratus anterior will contract like this, with the help of upper fibers of trapezius that will contract like this, and lower fibers of trapezius that will contract downwards like this. So the end result will be upward rotation of the scapula, which is done by upper and lower fibers of trapezius with lower 5 digits of serratus anterior. And now we can return again to the main view, and this was the tutorial of pectoral muscles. Good luck and goodbye in next tutorials.